What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about MicroStrategy in this video. We're also going to talk about MSTU and MTSX at the end of this video. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, my friends, without wasting any time at all. Here we are sitting at about $300. I do think that in context with this video, it'd be very suitable or helpful even to watch this video here, Bitcoin's next move that I made today. I will leave a link in the description. I'll just copy, or actually probably in a pinned comment is what I'll do. But I definitely think if you haven't watched that video, you should watch that video. I think there's some important stuff going forward, and it'll help make sense out of what we're going to talk about in this video here. Okay, so I believe, and I want to start with the whole thing, the whole kind of idea that I had in December, what made the most sense to me based off of the roadmaps, quote unquote, that we get with every cycle, right? Because every cycle there is a little bit of seasonality that's at play. Every cycle is different. They all do their own things. Of course, we always have firsts in every single cycle, but every single cycle also has things that are a bit repetitive, right? So with that in mind, I expected December, just like the rest of people in crypto, to be very beneficial, not just for Bitcoin, but for MicroStrategy as well. I thought that December was going to be great. It wasn't. I mean, literally, most of December, you were either boring moving sideways or you spent moving down, right? We literally did not have a good December at all. And my expectations around the midway point or the beginning of December were that we would move up by the end of December. We'd be up at higher prices. So then by the end of January, we'd be up at around $1,000, right? But here we are. Instead of being up here by the end of December, we're down here by the end of December. So your targets are kind of thrown off. I shouldn't even say thrown off. The targets are not thrown off. It's the timing that's thrown off. And that's why I think this video is so good to watch, because it'll give you a better idea of what I'm expecting for the timing. And we'll try and go over it in this video, not in as much detail so we're not boring people or spending so much time. I've already said it once today, but if you're wondering where I'm getting all this stuff from, you can watch that video, and it'll help explain, hopefully, in a very simple way. You don't have to be a genius, right? None of this stuff is like genius level stuff. We could teach a monkey how to do this stuff, right? I'm just a chart monkey. That's all I am at the end of the day. But from a high to a low, enough about me. Let's continue on here. From a high to a low, it's undeniable. You're at $300 now. Your next target, if this was your last target, that's where you topped off, your next target would be the 1886. It's undeniable. It absolutely is there. Now, what is deniable is, do you see that by the end of January? Probably not. Do you see it by the end of February? Maybe. You could absolutely see it by the end of February. And I think that we will, in February, reach for these targets, if not beginning of March, but I think that it will be mid/late February, probably for MicroStrategy, mid-February, that you see these targets. In other words, I'm expecting that January is a bullish month. I expect that we will close this month green, probably around 550, 650, somewhere in that area, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, somewhere around that area, but around the current all-time highs by the end of January is the expectation for MicroStrategy. And then going into February, we continue the move, and we'd probably move up to about 994, right? And that's more or less on par with what I was thinking back in the beginning of December, right? Except in December, I was thinking end of January, we would find resistance and we'd pull back as a market as a whole. And that made sense back then. It doesn't make so much sense now. I do expect by the end of January we find a relative high, but I think it keeps going into February, right? I don't think that we pull back. We already had the pullback. It was December. We already had it, right? I don't think that we're going to move up from here by the end of January and then pull back again, right? We go on these runs for a solid little bit sometimes. And in fact, I actually want to do something that I did in my last video, or for Bitcoin, the video that I did for Bitcoin here. I want to look at this weekly time frame and just see when MicroStrategy is on these little runs, you know, from a low here to a high, basically ended here. That was your high 2 weeks later, but that was like the end of the move. That was a 7-week move there, right? MicroStrategy here from a low to when that move ended, that was a 5-week move there. Low here, 5-week move there. Low here, 4-week move, right? Seeing some tendencies, right? Low there, maybe you started the move here, ended there. 11-week move, that's a bit out of the norms, right? Outside the norms. And then here, from a low to the high, that was an 11-week move as well. So I think it's obvious already looking at this that the smaller moves clearly happened in the beginning of the cycle, and as we progress, the moves are getting bigger, not just in a time perspective, but also in an overall size perspective, right? And that makes sense. Generally, and if you look at Bitcoin, You go through any cycle, the biggest moves and the fastest moves are at the finale, are at the second half, and really that last third of the cycle tends to be the most bullish. So all I'm promoting is that this next move likely does not end at the end of January, right? Because that would make it a 4-week move. It's not impossible, but we have only seen one instance in this whole bull cycle of moves, which we literally just measured. We just did that. We didn't get every up move that there was. We didn't get every consolidation phase, right? We didn't get all the little weeks in between, but all the phases where you went up, then you consolidated, then you went up, and then you consolidated. You went up, all those phases, we measured them. We measured all of them. And the smallest one was 4 weeks. It happened in the beginning of the cycle, below the green line. Since we've been above the green line, we've been getting 11 weeks, 7 weeks, 11 weeks. So my assumption is we probably don't end 4 weeks from now, which would be the end of January. Probably at least 5 weeks, which would be the beginning of February, albeit 5 weeks. But I would think really appropriately at least 7 weeks. If not, maybe 11 weeks, which really brings like the middle of March. We're in the beginning of January, guys, and I'm talking about a move that could last until the middle of March. Not just for MicroStrategy, right? If this is what happens for MicroStrategy, this is what's going to happen for the rest of crypto as well. And it won't be a straight move up the whole time. Even on these where it seems like it's a straight move up from a high to a low here on a weekly basis, you dropped 17% there. On your way up here from a high to a low, you dropped another 17%, 18% there. Hey, that's kind of 17.67, 17.57. It's kind of a coincidence, ain't it? Maybe put that in your back pocket for a later date. It's not a straight move up the whole time, but I do believe that over the next probably 7 to 11 weeks, MicroStrategy will be moving up. In other words, and what I will say, because this is the expectation of the end of this next move, right? The end of this next move, which we've already established the minimum target from a high to a low. The minimum target is $994. And I say minimum because it is the minimum target. We could see 1,300. I doubt we move up to 2,400 by the end of February, but probably between 13 and 994, $1,300, $994 is where we go. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you is that between the 7th week from now and 11th week from now, that's likely when we would see this target. So that's anywhere between March 17th and February 18th. So February 18th to March 17th, somewhere in that time window, that's when I would expect we're at $994. Okay, if by this time here, right here on this week, if by that was not the straightest line ever. Okay, but let's just say it's right here. If it's like this week here, that's when we're up in this area, is like over here. Likely then by the end of January, which is over here, we would likely see some progress already there. So I really do expect, and in my video yesterday, we did a really good job, I think, of predicting out where the end of January would be, and the target that I got was like right around this 1618, just a bit above it. I think it was either at 540 exactly, or maybe it was at 550, maybe it was at 530, I forget, but it was somewhere around that 1618, and that's kind of my expectation for the end of January, which really does leave the door open, and I think appropriately so. It gives us enough time and a small enough distance to close that gap between, you know, this orange line here and that purple line by the end of February, if not the midpoint of March, which again we've established is a suitable range based off of every move that we've seen here for MicroStrategy and its whole bull cycles, right? 4 weeks doesn't sound right. So this move likely does not end by the end of January, right? Because we put 4 weeks down here. You know, I'm just going to delete everything actually so that it's not such a headache. 4 weeks down here would put us, if I could just get it right, would put us at the end of January, right? That was the smallest move that we saw so far. I wonder if I can just get rid of, there we go, like that. Yeah, that was the smallest move that we saw. 7 weeks, smallest move that we've seen since we've been above the green line. 11 weeks, we've seen that twice now. Could we see something that's a little bit less than 7 weeks? Sure. Maybe the middle of February, maybe the beginning of February, maybe. 5 weeks, maybe. Could we see something a little bit longer than 11 weeks? Sure. Maybe this move doesn't end until April, man. Like, genuinely. Maybe it keeps going. I don't know. We've seen MicroStrategy go on long tears before. It can do it again, man. But, you know, all of this has really just been theory. There's been applied, like, measurements and targets and things like that, but not so much TA. Let's look at this real quick. And some TA. Obviously, we've made sense out of things through other means but than just opinions. But, you know, from a high to a low, you've pulled all the way back down to, like, the 53. It's pretty big pullback on the weekly. Wasn't I saying it? Was it for MicroStrategy? I was saying this where generally when you get overbought, you go below the 50, you go below the 50, but this one time here that you didn't go below the 50 before you bounced that was when you were like pretty overbought here and you got pretty overbought here. So maybe you don't go below the 50 here. I don't know. Although to be fair, when you bounced here, you did inevitably go below the 50. I don't think that's what would happen here. I think that you'd actually continue your next move up, which you can do. It doesn't look like we have a historical example of that, but you can do that. I promise you, it's a very possible thing. I want to look at one more thing, a couple more things, and then we'll move on to the MSTU and MTSX stuff, okay? Daily time frame. I like where you're at for support. You could go lower, but I doubt you do. You're at 300 bucks now. Beautiful. High to low. Oh, that's something else I wanted to go over. Oh yeah, hold on. MicroStrategy, open interest. And I don't know how accurate this is, guys. I don't know. I think it is pretty accurate, but I don't know if it's 100% accurate. I need to figure out some more stuff about this, but it is, for all intents and purposes, I think it is a useful tool. Tomorrow is the 3rd, and we still have more open calls than we do puts. A lot of people today were wondering why, or asking why, or telling me why we didn't move up today. Bitcoin moved up today, but MicroStrategy barely moved up, right? Why did Bitcoin move up over the weekend and today, and then MicroStrategy barely moved up today? Why did that happen? Everyone has their reasons. My reason is simply this: more people are long than short. There's more money to be taken out of people's pockets if the price remains lower than if the price goes higher, right? But as time goes on, look at this ratio right here, this put to call ratio is at 1.82 for the expiration in January 17th of this month, right? That's the highest I've seen the put to call ratio. We've seen about 100,000 puts come in over the last like 3 days. Okay, we've seen that come in open interest, right? So there are more people who are shorting right now as well. There are people who are shorting, which is why I don't expect that tomorrow, and it makes sense why yesterday too, that we move at all. We probably won't move much at all. We're going to let these options expire. We're not going to give the puts more profits or reasons to take profits, and we're not going to give the longs reasons to necessarily give up hope just yet, right? Let them hold on and let those options expire. They can roll them over if they want to, or just let them roll to zero, whatever. Who knows why things really move at all, but my expectation would be that tomorrow is probably going to be a neutral day because we have a lot of interest, a lot of open calls and puts tomorrow. And the puts have been added to, the calls have been added to, so it makes sense that not only would we not move up because the calls have been added to, but we probably don't move down because the puts have been added to. It all expires tomorrow, so I think that we probably have a boring end of week, and then next week, starting next week, we might even move down a little bit because we do have more calls open next week than puts. We might even move down to start the week and then move up. Something like that could happen. Or I don't know, man, if Bitcoin moves up enough, if MicroStrategy closes down here, maybe people add on puts. Maybe there's less calls. Maybe people cover their calls and they take their losses. Whatever. I don't know how it looks, but if this put to call ratio stays at this 0.42, if it's not something closer to a 1, at least a 0.8 or higher, I can't really expect that MicroStrategy would move up next week unless we get more puts coming in or not. But I mean, to be completely fair too, if Bitcoin moves up enough between now and the end of next week, I suppose MicroStrategy doesn't really have a choice but to move up. It probably would move up, but that's just that little metric there. Nonetheless, very excited for what's coming on January 17th that week, the week after next week. I mean, next week it probably starts to move up, but the following week. And then going into February, March, there's not a whole lot of options open here in the month of February. I'm sure there will be some more that are open, depending on what happens by the end of this month. But I do think that there is going to be a lot of room for some upside potential after this month. I do think that we will see that $900 target come in at the end of February. And I very much do believe that all the puts that are open up for the end of this month right now, with that very high ratio of 1.82, I think that that'll propel MicroStrategy a lot higher. I want to look at the ribbons, and then we can move on to MSTU and MTSX. There was something else I wanted to talk about too, but I was going to show you. I was going to pull up another indicator, but we don't need to do that, man. This video's gone on long enough. Let's see. Ribbon looks good on the monthly. I don't need to pull out the fibs. Weekly, yeah, that's a beautiful move right there, man. Tipping, this would give you more kind of plausibility, more reason to believe that you probably don't go lower next week, because that's just such a nice bounce. If you were to bounce here, if you were to close this week right here or higher, and then next week come back down, it's not that you can't move up from there. I mean, you've done that exact thing and then moved up, but you see what happened afterwards. You still went back lower, right? Here, when you moved up, you found support. You didn't come back and find support again, right? You just moved up afterwards, right? So if you're coming down and you're finding support, don't come down and find support again, right? Just move up from here. I don't know. It wouldn't make sense to me that next week you were to move down with this look right now. As long as this week closes here or higher, it wouldn't make sense to me. Daily time frame being below the ribbon, that's fine. Probably a low here. Generally speaking, when the daily's positioned like this, you get prices below the ribbon. That tends to be a good place to buy or go long. You can let go of that long here, or if it breaks above this area, you can add to that long or potentially take profits at relative areas of resistance or support going back. Just short-term trade stuff. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but just telling you that that's kind of how I would play this if I was playing it, and I'm not. But I was considering opening some call options today, but I didn't just because I didn't want to move my money around. But man, $300. I definitely think that this thing's going to see prices above 350 probably next week, man. Probably next week. Maybe not tomorrow, but probably next week. I think we get up there, right? Anyways, that last part I felt like was more me rambling than it was like providing any genuine sustenance. MSTU here. ETF opportunities, 2x long, MicroStrategy's daily ETF. So 7%, yes. So the thing is, I will say this, cute Qui, I can't do technical analysis on this, right? Or I can, but I've already done it. I've already given you the technical analysis, right? Because right, from a high to a low, this thing has dropped twice as much as MSTR has here from a high to low. And it's not going to be, just because this dropped 76% doesn't mean this is going to drop 38%, right? That's not what that means. It's different to the downside. 47%, right? It doesn't seem, 47% seems like it's more than half. And from a numerical standpoint it is, but man, 76, if we put it at 47%, just look at where that 40, let's put a line right here, right? Like right halfway through. That's a little bit under halfway. Let's put it like right halfway through. I feel like that's a little over halfway, but let's pull all the way up to that line right there. You see how that's 54%, right? You see what I mean? It compounds, and it's in log, so it does that too. It kind of skews it. That's the point of log, I suppose, though, is to make it look prettier. But I promise you, yeah, this thing, essentially all I'm trying to get at by measuring this is proving, and with the downside move, it's probably not actually going to prove anything, but proving that everything I said for MicroStrategy is true for MSTU, just doubly so, right? It's going to move up twice as fast. It moves down twice as fast. So I don't know. Nothing really to go off of here. Apply everything that I've said in this video to this. Do that. You want me to give you targets? You don't want to do it yourself and apply it yourself. You want me to do it because you're lazy? All right, I got you. I got you then. Real quick though, right? If MSTR, if I'm expecting it to go all the way up to 1,000, let's just say 994, about 1,000, let's just say 1,000. That's 235%. That would imply that this thing sees 270% or 470% growth, which, hey, wouldn't you know it? That's your minimum target there at the 1272. Beautiful. That's your minimum target right there, 470%, which is the next target on your fibs all the way up here at about 235%. So yeah, MSTU makes sense. Apply all the same analysis to that. There's nothing new that you're going to gain, or nothing that's worth me doing. MTSX, is it MSTX? Is that, maybe it was a typo? I think it was a typo. No offense. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Faircoragioyu. Faircoragioyu. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's Fercorreiau. Faircoragioyu. I don't know. MTSX is what you wrote, or maybe that's what I wrote. I don't know. But MSTX, we figured it out, man. We did it anyways. MSTX. Well, dropped a whole lot, didn't it? High to low. Dropped a lot more than MSTU did. That's a little bit concerning, isn't it? Like, why is it? That's why I hate trading derivatives, man. That's genuinely why I hate trading derivatives. MicroStrategy itself is already kind of a derivative of Bitcoin. Now it's like you're trading a derivative of a derivative. The reason why they're risky, the reason why derivatives are risky is because you're having more human beings in charge of your money, of your potential successes or failures. That's more people, more problems. Generally, whenever it comes to stuff, when it comes to finances, man. From a low in September to a high there, you're at the base of your golden ratio range. I mean, you probably find support here. 37 bucks. Next stop, 79 bucks. And again, I would say that all the TA I did on MSTR is applicable here probably. Oh, it's because you did dividends. It's because you did and very high dividends. Okay. So this is a bit different, isn't it? MSTU doesn't do that, right? Nope. No dividends. So maybe that's why. If this thing offers dividends, then understand, even though it says 2x long, which that's a little misleading. I couldn't imagine them doing a 2x while also paying dividends. I mean, maybe. I'm not saying it's impossible. I've seen it, but that stuff normally doesn't last long, and those normally go under. But you know, for every maybe if MicroStrategy moves up 100%, this thing moves up 160% or 150% or maybe 180%, but maybe it doesn't quite move up 2x just because you're paying off dividends. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know enough about this, but that's a new thing. That's a lot of dividends. 14.28 on a closing price of 37.73. I mean, it's not quite 50%, but that's pretty good. I want to buy this thing. more dividends, please. And likely MicroStrategy is going to move up, which would mean this thing moves up. Bitcoin's going to move up, which would mean this thing moves up. So I don't know, man. This one pays out dividends and it could move up. That's actually not a bad thing. I was talking smack about it at first because it dropped more. It's a derivative, so I'm like talking smack about it. But hey, it's from a relative low to a relative high. It's at its golden ratio, right? From this relative low to this relative high. Literally at the white zone, the golden ratio, finding support down here where you could bounce and then move up here. You might see a nice, cool little 2x. And then by the time, or maybe even a 3x, by the time that moves done, you get more dividends. And you get that extra 0.5x. I don't know. That's kind of cool. I'm not going to put my money in this. I've sworn off of derivatives, right? I've actually, like, I don't put money in derivatives, but this one looks pretty cool, not going to lie. But hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I didn't really give too much TA on this last part. I just kind of gawked at it. It's because it wouldn't be fair of me to give TA. It's not one of those things that I can, honestly. I can, and there's outside factors that are imposed on this that would outweigh any kind of technical perspective I can give it. So nonetheless, I expect that this will move up to new all-time highs. Just how high will it move? I don't know. It depends on how much of these dividends pay out. I can't assume that it would move up 2x, even though it says 2x. I can't assume that it would move up 2x tit for tat with MicroStrategy. I mean, maybe it does. Maybe it does from here on out. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, guys, hit the like button, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.